You're listening to Cards to the Moon, a podcast about trading cards from both a collector and investor perspective. We hope you'll stick around for the ride as we take a deep dive into the state of the hobby, share some hot takes, hopefully some useful advice, and fun stories along the way. Hey guys, welcome back to Cards to the Moon. This is Clark from 5cardguys.com, and you can also find me at 5cardguys on Instagram, on Facebook, and on YouTube. Hosting with me today is Will and Roy. They are back and they got updates for us, especially Roy, who's been setting up at different shows lately, selling his Pokémon cards. So yeah, let's just get right into it, guys. Off the top, the most recent show you set up at was the Sports Card Expo here in Toronto, which is the biggest card show in Canada. So Roy, I want to ask you, how was it? What did you expect going into it? And how did you actually find the whole experience setting up at the expo?
Yeah, it was a great event, especially being one of my first shows. It was very busy. A lot of people. I was located in the CSC section, which is kind of like, I guess, mainly TCG. It's kind of a corner that's dedicated mostly TCG vendors, but yeah. So I was set up there. Will helped me out for a few days. A lot of people. It was nice. You get to actually interact and talk to people, see what they collect, and just kind of trade and deal on my end. So it was a lot of fun. It was a little overwhelming at times just because there were just so many people, especially on the Saturday.
Right.
But yeah, it was a lot of fun. I got to see a lot of things and got to move a lot of cards. So
nice. I know that section was packed because I saw you on Saturday, probably the busiest day. And did you learn anything? Like, I know you were with like other vendors, like people besides you. Did you get to talk with any of them while you were working?
Yeah, like during the slow times, I got to meet the vendors that were within my group of tables. I think there was 5 of us. So it was nice to get to chat and meet other vendors, because when I was collecting, it was just me. I talked to you guys about Pokemon, but you guys would just shrug your shoulders and just nod your head. But being along with other vendors who've been doing it for a lot longer, they gave me some tips, but also just getting to know them. It was a lot of fun. So pick their brains on what to do, how to do this, and how to do that. But yeah, some things that I took away were never trust other people. Don't be lazy. There's one lot I purchased off someone, and I asked them. It was like maybe 30 or 40 cards. I really just didn't want to comp it all because the internet was really slow. So I just said, "What do you have it comped at?" And then he gave me a figure, and then I gave him a counter offer, and I just trusted him. But while I was comping it, when times were a little bit slower, I was like, "Man, this guy fleeced me." So yeah, don't trust them. Do your own work. Do your own due diligence when you're buying. But those are learning lessons, and I'll make sure I comp it out for the next time.
You got to be like our friend DC. Like, he takes his time comping everything. It takes forever sometimes, and I think that's what it takes, right? You got to, especially with a big lot, you got to go through it. But
for sure. Just don't be lazy. Do your work. And get Rogers internet when you're at the expo, because I'm with Bell, and holy, it was bad.
I switched to public mobile. That was kind of a big mistake too. So I know you set up at smaller shows as well. So other than the sheer size of the expo, were there any other differences from setting up at the expo than at the smaller shows that you were at, like in the previous weeks? And did you learn anything from those smaller shows that helped you in any way to prep for the expo?
Yeah, for sure. So every time that I've been to shows as a buyer, I'd always be looking for slabs, because that's kind of mainly what I collect. But being at my first show, which was HobbyCon, which is a free admission event, I guess you get a different kind of clientele. So they're looking for cheap singles, and I didn't have too many. So I was kind of like, okay, this is what I have to prepare for Expo. So they weren't looking for slabs. I think my first show, I didn't sell a single slab. Maybe I sold 1 or 2.
Oh, really?
But I was shocked at the amount of singles that people were buying and people were trading.
Yeah.
So then I definitely had to ramp up for Expo, and I was buying singles off, off you guys and off anyone that kind of I knew that collected, just to kind of prepare for the show.
Yeah, that's a good lesson. That's for sure.
Yeah, and like the different clients, I guess from a free event, they're looking for cheap singles, but Expo it's a totally different ballgame. You have people who are doing the same, but also people who are also spending like $10,000-$20,000. I think the first day the vendor beside me, I think they cleared like $80,000 in one day.
What?
Yeah, it was crazy. They were wheeling and dealing. So
that's insane.
Yeah.
Well, I know you were there to help out. Roy just mentioned that, and you joked that you were his lackey for a couple of days. I'm curious how your experience was behind the booth versus, just walking on the showroom, floor as we normally do at these events, right? So yeah, tell us about it.
Yeah, I gotta say, being behind the booth or being behind the tables, it's a much better experience than just walking around all day. You get really tired just walking around. Your knees and feet get sore, your back gets sore. But just having like a base of operations, it's kind of nice when you need to get away from the crazy crowds. You just kind of go back into your little booth. The only problem with the booth that Roy had was it was shared with 4 other tables or 4 other groups. And so at different times, there's just too many of us in that section. And, I didn't want to be in anyone's way. And I felt very much like the odd man out because Roy's whole section, it's all Pokemon. It's all TCG. Everyone knows what they're talking about. Everyone's holding, like Roy said, the guys next to us, they're holding like these $20,000, $40,000 cards, whatever. Like they're making these crazy deals. And I'm just like standing in the way. Like I'm literally just blocking the one entrance and exit that we have. And like I'm a bigger guy, so they're just like they're trying to be polite and they're like, "Oh, excuse me," whatever. So, I felt really like undeserving or unworthy in a way. And I actually had to get over that and realize, you know what? I'm just here to help out my buddy Roy. But yeah, it'd be funny because every once in a while people will come by and Roy's, dealing with 2 different groups. And so like there's this third group and they're like, "Oh, I'm really curious about that box of Pokemon cards. Can you tell me more about it?" And I'm just like, "No, I cannot." They're like, "Do you have any Decidueye or like whatever random like Pokemon?" And I'm like, I have never heard of that Pokemon before. If it's not the original 151, then I don't know. But I would say like after that initial shock on the Thursday night, like coming back and helping out, it got more fun and more exciting. And actually in Roy's whole like sales display cases, there was one card that was my card, and it was a Pokemon Japanese what was it, Roy? I don't even know. Espeon?
Sylveon.
Oh, Sylveon. Yeah.
From Terrestrial Festival.
Yeah. And so I couldn't be there at the show the whole week, but I would come as often as I could for a couple hours here and there. And the last time I was there, I think I was on Saturday, someone came and was interested in my card out of all the cards. And so we ended up making a pretty fun trade for some cash, and Roy took some of his cards off him. And after that transaction finished, I felt this insane dopamine rush. Like it felt so good.
Right.
And then I understood why Roy was just having the time of his life this whole weekend. That whole weekend. It was like, it's just so much fun getting to make the deals and stuff like that. So, Roy and I are planning to set up at another show in August. And honestly, Clark, next year or in November for Sports Card Expo, when it comes back, I think we have to set up a booth.
Okay.
I think we have to do it. It was so much fun.
It's a lot of fun. When they come to you and you have the power to kind of like, they say, "Oh, are you guys taking trades or buying?" And then you get to look at their binder and see what you want, and then select what you want and purchase it or trade off them. So
nice.
It's nice.
Yeah,
nice
Clark, all those times we're walking around, we're offering a card and they're just rejecting you time and time again. Yes. It's amazing because now you're the hot chick. you're just like, I'm not really interested. And then they walk away all sad. And then you don't even have time to feel bad because another person comes by with more cards, and you're like, nah, I don't know.
All right, well, let's do it. Let's do it. You know what's funny? I like Sport Card Expo. I love it, but it could get better in terms of organization because you know how we initially looked into it until Roy deserted us, right? But but then I filled out the form, and then I said, hey, actually, we're not interested for this spring expo. And then literally a week before the show starts, I don't think I even told you guys. A week before the show starts, that guy messages me back and say, hey, good news, your table is available. I'm like, what are you talking about? So I had to email him like, actually, I messaged you a month ago saying I don't need the table anymore. And then he didn't respond. And luckily, he didn't send an invoice by accident. So, I mean, worst case scenario, I would have said, well, do you want this table? and just take it. But yeah, so it's possible. I guess we'll be ready for November. I think they'll definitely be fun to do. But it seemed like a lot of work, and like you seem exhausted at times, Roy. Was that the case?
Oh yeah, it's a lot of work going up to it. I guess because if you're selling singles, you got to comp out a lot of cards before the show, right? So
yeah,
what I do is I comped out like my single raw cards probably like 2 days before, 2 to 3 days before, and then my slabs I do the day before because slabs, they fluctuate in price. Whereas the singles, they kind of generally stay the same over a short amount of time. But yeah, it was, when people come in waves and you're doing comps, it just takes a lot of mental, your mental strength. Yeah. And then you're standing all day. I don't know. I choose to stand instead of sit. I just think it's more presentable. But that was exhausting as well. And it's just hours and hours of just, the same thing. So,
right.
I work at home, behind the desk, and I'm not really talking to anyone. So being social, being out there, being physically active or whatever it is, and mentally, it takes a lot. So I was pretty drained by the end of it. I ended up going to a spa afterwards, a go place with some of the vendors besides just to get some relaxation afterwards. But nice. Yeah, it was tiring for sure. But 4 days is a long weekend of just sales. Yeah. Just the smaller shows they're more manageable, but no regrets. I'll definitely be doing it again. So
just to add to that, when I was really nervous about helping Roy out, and I was like, I just wanted to do my best. And so we get to the show, and I'm like, hey, so should I bring chairs? Are there going to be chairs? And he's like, yeah, you could bring one if you want. And then I get there. I'm like, hey, I didn't bring a chair. He's like, okay, there's one here. I was like, okay, you sit. And he's like, no, I don't sit. I'm like, what? You're not going to sit? He's like, yeah, man, it's like, it was like put into me at a young age, like if you're like a shop owner, someone comes in, you stand up. It's like the right thing to do. It's like this, it's in all of our Korean blood,
And grew up in the convenience store.
Right? Like I'm a shop owner too. So when customers come in, like I always make sure I'm presentable. So I totally understood what Roy was going with. So we didn't sit for like big chunks. And then I started getting like lower back spasms. I'll go home and be like, man, I'll tell my wife, like, I am so tired. And I did like 30% of what Roy was doing. So I don't know how he lasted because, like you said, it was exhausting at times. There's so many people. And then, I think because it was Roy's first show, like Roy's first big show and like my first experience. And because we have that history of like, trying to be as accommodating to customers as quick as possible. It's like you're like in the service industry. You're moving as quick as you can to do it as right as you can. And so you just kind of get like really busy and flustered and just like so focused that you don't even like take a breath. And so that's the advice I would give to Roy and to myself and to anyone who's going to do it moving forward. It's like, just take a breath. Just really enjoy it. You don't need to go as fast as you think you need to go. You can slow it down a little bit. Or maybe Roy feels different. I don't know.
Sounds like good advice.
It depends. When times are slow, you get to relax, chat with your neighbors, and if it's busy, yeah, you just gotta do what you gotta do. So,
all right, I appreciate the insight. Sounds like you had a good time, and the next one in November we'll be ready for it. You know what I got to do? I got to get more inventory. Like I don't have a lot to sell, right? So that's going to be a challenge for me. But I got time, I guess. All right, let's move on to hobby headlines. Actually, this is a really good segue to what we were just talking about because I want to go over an article in The Athletic that came out recently, and it was titled, "How Sports Card Shows Are Benefiting from the Explosion in Demand for Pokemon Cards." So very timely. So what I did was pick out some quotes from the article. I've done this a few times with Hyung and John. And I thought, we could just discuss what we think of the article, whether we agree or not with some of the points or just have a different opinion. Okay? So the first point is it's more of a kind of a data reference point. And the article says, a survey of card collectors in 2024 showed trading card game, TCG, / Pokemon collecting was 30% of the market. But that figure seems likely to continue to grow. So my question is, are you surprised by that fact? Or do you think from what you've seen, even at the most recent card shows, that you've already seen that trend definitely happening? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, when you walk around, like before it would be mainly sports cards. At least my first expo experience, very little TCG. And now when you walk around, there's TCG everywhere. Even within sports cards display cases, they're selling TCG because they know, people are flooding towards this. This is what people want. So even though their main display or their main sales are sports, they know they have to have something else that kind of entices a little bit of everyone. So you're definitely seeing it when you walk around.
For sure. Yeah. How about you, Will? Same?
Yeah, definitely. Like when Roy would have those quiet times, that's when I would take take advantage of the opportunity to walk around and check out booths because, I'm still a collector and a shopper. I'm not just there to sell. And so our little section, it's called the CSC section. It's all Pokemon. It's all TCG. But as soon as you get out of there, there's like 95% more show to see. And I walk through all the booths, all the rows, and the amount of TCG that I saw was it was wild. And it was like some booths that were exclusively TCG, exclusively Pokemon. And then there were some like big vendors with lots of Pokemon. And then even like small, like old, like the people that you would never expect to have TCG. Like they just have like these like dusty cases with fresh Pokemon. I'm like, you don't even know. Like, we joke about how Hyung's the type that would call them Pokemans. And like that's what I saw, just like a whole bunch of dusty old guys just selling Pokemans and even like wrestling, because that's where I've pivoted to. I remember the first time I went to Expo, there was one guy who had one tiny little corner booth, and he had one display case. And this past Expo, I think I must have seen 10 guys who were exclusively wrestling, and then a bunch of other vendors who had like mixed sports and had some wrestling there. So it was really awesome. It's really awesome to see kind of how Expo is growing, because we would complain every show. It's like it's too much hockey,
right? No, it's for sure. I've been seeing the same thing. Bunch of TCG, even leading up to the Sport Card Expo, right? Like one of the CSC, they have their own show like every 2 or 3 months, and the one that I went to like half a year ago was I'm like 60% TCG. Like it was crazy. My son had the greatest time, and I'm like, where are the sports cards? You know what I mean?
That's ironic because the sports cards, what is it called? Canada Sports Cards?
Right.
Yeah, it's not even sports anymore.
Yeah.
They got to change their name to be more accurate in what they're actually selling at these shows. But yeah, you're definitely right. And it's not just here in Toronto. Like if you look on Instagram, like my feed at all these local shows, they're all like, oh, there's a ton of Pokemon, ton of TCG. And to your point, Will, as well, like just more diversity in general with wrestling, WWE cards. So I kind of like it. I like the diversity. And we're going to get to this point because later on in the article, there are people that, there's always people that are that don't like change as much, right? So we'll get to that point in just a sec. But the second one I wanted to bring up in the article was that according to GemRate, which tracks graded card populations, the vast majority of cards graded today are TCG. In a recent 7-day sample in late April, TCG accounted for 70% of all graded cards, and nearly all of that was Pokemon. Are you guys surprised at that number, 70%?
I mean, I'm not really surprised, just because there's such an influx, and people are like, in Pokemon, people grade like $5 cards, just whether it's because they want to, make $20 if they get a PSA 10, or if it's just for their own collection. Mm-hmm. I feel like has there been like a big sports like rookie to be graded recently? Just like Wemby. I know Wemby was last year, but this year there's probably not a big chase, right? So there's not as many sports cards being graded in that sense, I feel. So I'm not surprised at all at that stat.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you look, it makes sense because sports is kind of like the major sports are kind of at this crossroads point where Fanatics is taking over all the licensing, but they don't have licensing yet. So you're getting these bootleg versions of Topps Chrome, Yeah. What do we call them? Unlicensed. We have these unlicensed cards that you guys joke that I would like, but I don't like those ones.
Okay.
And then like the basketball draft class was pretty weak this year. Like a lot of serviceable NBA players, like they're going to be good players, but they're not Wemby, They're not Anthony Edwards.
Yeah.
Those cards have all been graded. Baseball, it's kind of the same thing. It's like, there's no Soto and Acuna and Vladdy and all that. So it makes sense that, people are looking for something to grade. They're looking to turn profits, and Pokemon's just been on this meteoric rise. And I do Roy and I would send stuff to PSA grading, and so we'd look at the monthly specials. And over the last 6 months, before this year started, every month had a TCG special. Remember, Roy? Like there's always TCG specials. And yeah, so I feel like that kind of helped it too, right? People are more incentivized to send in those TCG cards,
sure,
because it's
and TCG
discounted.
Grading costs are generally lower than sports cards, on the normal. So I think it's like $17.99 for sports, and it's like $14.99 or $15.99 for TCG. So
so it's almost like a perfect storm. Like there's so many factors that play into TCG, just Pokemon especially, just having this rise.
For sure. I mean, even now, actually, is that still the case? I feel like TCG graded cards are now creeping up in price because the demand is obviously there in terms of how many people want to send their cards to be graded.
Well, PSA has that backlog, so they haven't had any specials for lower stuff. Like they haven't had bulk deals and all that stuff. And then, us Canadians were also dealing with the tariff issue. So
true. For me, it reminds me of, and I've mentioned this on the podcast before, it reminds me of, the COVID hype of sports cards and the profit that you can get off PSA 10s, like the Louis Roberts back in the day. You're like, it's totally worth it to get graded. And I feel like that's kind of the case with Pokemon cards. If it gets a PSA 10, you can look at 2x, 3x on some of these cards easily, right? So it's like, oh, why not? Why not take the risk of getting a PSA 10? And it's just far more liquid, especially when you're selling on eBay. And I could definitely attest to that. So I think we're in that period. Who knows how long it'll last? But I think that's part of why a lot of more people are just submitting their TCG Pokemon cards. And I mean, I'm mainly still a sports card collector, but my last subs have been mainly to Roy to get my Pokemon cards graded. That's where the money's at right now.
Yeah, you did well on your subs too. You got 5 out of 6 cards.
Can't complain. Can't complain. I love it. Well, speaking about the hype, the next quote is, it says, "You have scalpers sleeping outside and flipping to vendors for a profit, and then the vendors mark it up. A little box with 6 packs is getting a 300% premium at shows. It's just crazy hype right now. So can you guys, do you guys agree or disagree with that statement?
Well, it is happening right now, and it is crazy. You know, like for someone who wants to rip some cards with their kids, to be paying $10-15 a pack, it's pretty crazy. Where like 2 years ago, you could buy packs under retail price. I think they retail for like $7.99 or $7.49 at Walmart. Mm-hmm. You could be buying them at like a local card store for like $5, $4 a pack. Yes. So things were a lot more affordable. But now, like with the influx, it's like almost impossible to buy cards at a reasonable price. You could spend $40 on 3 packs of 151 and pull nothing, and your $40 is gone, right? Right. Where that could have taken you 10 packs, and you would at least maybe hit something. So
yeah, it's wild that we didn't see it earlier. Because, we joked about this the last time we were on the pod, all three of us. It's like, we go to Costco and you just see these ETBs just sitting there for weeks. Yeah. And it's like $56, $50, $60. Or at Walmart, there'd always be ETBs. There'd always be packs. And so they weren't secondary market pricing. Mm-hmm. And baseball, basketball, all the other sports had seen that kind of like bump up where the retail, you couldn't get it at retail, so you have to buy a secondary, and then LCSs just start bumping up their retail price to meet the kind of that price point that secondary is already selling at. And Pokemon was just sitting there the whole time, and we didn't realize it. Like, I should have bought $20,000 worth of ETBs because it's just profit.
You would have made a nice profit. Yeah. I mean, this quote is definitely 100% true. You know how I noticed is that when I went to Walmart, you could easily get Pokemon boxes and cards. Now they're all behind locked glass cases. Like it's not available just for you to take. You got to get a store representative to unlock the case. Yeah. So, and then, now we're just dependent on Roy to tell us when the drops are coming. Yeah. It's crazy. And then I think we see like in the code how far behind we are in the line. It's like,
queue, yeah.
The queue, yeah. Yeah, so it's definitely reminiscent of the hobby hype for sports cards in 2021, for sure. Okay, Deb Nexon, promoter of the Morris County, New Jersey card show since 2021. She said that TCG/Pokemon dealers prefer to be smaller parts of broader card shows that include sports because their inventory is much more limited than sports cards. And she says in a quote, if you have a show exclusively with TCG, everyone is going to have the same product at every table. There aren't number cards and variations like in sports, end quote. I thought that was pretty interesting because I didn't really think about that, but it kind of is true because, the Pokemon cards that everyone after, a lot of the dealers would have it. So I'm wondering, Roy, like, what is your experience in terms of like competition with other dealers? Do you know what I mean? Like, they're good. If you have a nice like hit, there's no variation. So it's not like, oh, I got the number to 99 and he's got the number to 5. You guys both got the PSA 10 or PSA 9, and they're probably going to be priced accordingly, right? So do you find that there is more competition with other TCG dealers because there is less variety in the cards?
Yeah, for sure. Like, I was speaking with some of the customers coming in, and then I was like, "Oh, hey, how's the show going?" And they're like, "It's overwhelming." And I could see that. You go to like something like the CSC section where it's just all TCG, and then it's just overstimulation of the same thing, right? So you just pick a vendor, whoever's closest, and then you probably just deal with them, right? They're either looking for a card or whatnot. But yeah, that quote definitely makes sense. That's something that I would probably consider going forward when I'm picking these shows, is try to find something that's not fully TCG or fully Pokemon, where it kind of gives the users a break when they're looking around. It's refreshing to see some sports cards and then like, oh, Pokemon, and then they're kind of, you have more, I guess, appeal to these customers who are looking for Pokemon, and then with less Pokemon vendors or less competition. So I definitely see, where that state of mind is coming from. So
yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, no, that's definitely interesting. Any thoughts on that, Will?
Yeah, I mean, you just see the same cards. It's kind of like with hockey, right? Like at the Sports Card Expo, I can only see so many young guns before my eyes glaze over, right? And so, yeah, if everyone's got the same Pokemon card, then yeah, your eyes start to glaze over. But I think the difference is like there's just so much variety. You know, like Roy had like 12,000 Pikachu cards for sale. And there were some people who went and they're like, oh my God, is that a 2013 Shadows of the Moon Festival Pikachu Reverse Holo? And then Roy'd be like, yeah.
You're speaking blasphemy right now.
I know, no, but don't worry. Pokemon, TCG lovers, I'm a fan. I'm with you. I'm trying. I'm learning. But like, yeah, so like, if every card was the same, it would be tough. But for the people who are walking around that area, especially the more discerning ones, they know exactly what they're looking for. Like they're like those old school guys who walk around with a notepad and they're trying to fill finish their sets. And they're like, oh, I'm looking for a 1967 Bobby, blah, blah, blah. You know, like, it's like, where are you going to find that? And so it's like the thrill of the hunt for a lot of those people. And it's the same with the Pokemon. But yeah, definitely, if everyone's just holding the same modern, you know, like, what's that set that I sold out of? Pokemon 151? Right? Mm-hmm. What was my card? Terastal? Was it Terastal Festival?
Oh, Terastal Festival.
Yeah, it's like, there's probably like 12,000 of those. So it's like, people just kind of glaze over those ones, but I think there's enough uniqueness in TCG. Yeah, where the really keen observers, they'll see the differences, they'll spot the differences.
Sure.
Yeah.
You know, the flip side is like when I traded for that Pikachu stamp box, like I've seen it a few times. So if it doesn't work out, like if you can't make a deal with one vendor, you just go to the next one. Yeah. And you know what I mean? So you have more options that way. Whereas sports cards, with the, you know, if you're looking for a limited parallel, like you might not see that same card again, right? You gotta make a deal with that vendor. Whereas you have options, I guess, with Pokemon dealers. So that's, I guess, a good thing for if you're looking to trade, because you definitely have options to go to the next guy with the same card and see if the trade works out that way. So pros and cons. All right. The next quote, the presence of TCG at card shows is not going to end anytime soon, according to Gabe Horvath of Coast Cards. He says, quote, sports and TCG living happily together. I view it as the more, the merrier. Old school sports dealers have an issue with TCG, but the younger guys and companies like mine do not. At the end of the day, it's all the same money. I mean, like for you, Roy, I know you were in the C corner, so you're with other Pokemon dealers. So I don't know if you could tell if there's any, you know, old school dealers shunning you in any way.
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
The community's pretty, you know, welcoming. All the vendors that I've met, have been pretty good. So I haven't experienced anything like that myself, but I definitely see, when I walk around Expo, at least when I was like a buyer, I'd definitely walk by those vintage booths, and I could tell these guys don't want to deal with anybody other than the vintage collectors.
Right.
They're like, modern, what is this? So yeah, I can see where they're coming from, but at the same time, no. Like in the TCG community, I haven't faced that at all. Everyone's been, you know, warm and welcoming, especially when I say, "Oh, this is like my first or second show." They're like, "Oh, awesome," and then they give me some advice and whatnot. So it's been great.
That's good.
Yeah, those people who hate on TCG and Pokemon are like the same guys who, you know, they just sit in their booth all week. They've got all their cards are yellow and dusty and faded, and they have a sign that says like, "Comps, what are comps?" It's like those types of people. You're like, yeah, I wasn't gonna deal with you anyway. But yeah, like I was saying, my experience at this past show was there were so many people who I could tell they had no idea about what was on the face of the card. They just knew that it was money, that they could sell it, that they could turn it for a profit. So people don't care. It's just, what do I get out of it? Do I get the green out of it? I was telling Roy, when we were at the show, at the CSC section, there's this one guy who had a booth, maybe a couple booths over from ours, and I overheard him talking to his buddy, and he was just like, "Yeah, man, like he was looking at some football cards that some guy brought by, and I was like, oh, I'll get in trouble with these, like, oh, I love this card, I love that card, and oh, I love ripping football." And then the other guy was like, "Oh, like, why are you in the CSC section with so much Pokemon?" And he's like, "Because it means nothing to me. I don't care about any of these cards. I don't know anything about these cards. And so I have no emotional attachment. I can sell it for whatever price." And that's that's kind of like what's happening, right? Like, people are realizing, man, Pokemon is such a hot market. I don't need to know anything other than what are the comps and what are the price points, and that guy's making a lot of money. And so he said that he refused to sell and buy football because he'll just want to hold everything. But with Pokemon, he could just let it go. So yeah, there really is this wave of like Pokemon, TCG, and all these other sports kind of taking over.
Yeah, that's a pretty unique perspective. I haven't heard that before, but it makes sense to me the way you described it, for sure. Well, speaking of the explosive growth of Pokemon cards, Deb Nexon, who you quoted earlier in the show, she said it's been great for show promoters. She said the number of tables at her show has nearly tripled to over 100 and is only limited by space, with a waiting list at least 40 deep. She said kids sell at tables with their parents, and, quote, "the entry point to sell is not hard. You can start selling after opening up a few packs." You think that's true for Pokemon sellers, that it's relatively easy to set up, even just buying a few packs or boxes?
I mean, you need a little bit of a collection, I'd say, right?
Okay.
You can't just sell common cards. No one's going to come and buy your stuff. But, you could probably start with like 50 like decent illustration rares, or maybe even less. And then you have that when you're behind the table, you have that power to, have the upper hand in terms of trade value. So, yeah, it doesn't take a lot to start. A few slabs and a few decent singles. But yeah, like, the entry point is pretty low, I'd say. The more you have, it's easier to make deals. But if you have the cards that everyone's kind of looking for, it's probably not hard to start off. And then you kind of get an understanding of how the shows work and what people are looking for, and then you kind of grow your collection for the next show, and then you go from there. So
sure,
yeah. And the entry point for kids, it's really low. It's really easy, and we've seen that with our own families, right? Like, both your sons have been wheeling and dealing. I have a bit of advice for all of our young collectors. Like, this is like a secret. Like, let Uncle Will teach you something really special. You go find a booth that's really busy, right? Mm-hmm. And this guy is dealing with like all these customers, and there's big cards being flashed one way or the other, and you kind of, you're like this cute little kid, and you're like, excuse me, will you buy my cards? You have like a couple like AR cards or EX cards, whatever the, like, not the common ones. You just quickly show it to them, and you're like, I'm just looking for $5. That guy's dealing with like $1,000 cards, and he'll just quickly look over the cards and he'll look at your cute little smile and be like, all right, I'll give you $5, because he's got to go back to his deal, but he can't be rude to a kid, because in the end, Pokemon's a kid's game. Right? And so after the dealer is done wheeling and dealing all his big deals, he'll finally reach into his pocket and he'll pull out those 5-6 cards that the cute little, kid sold to him. And he'll look at them and be like, man, these are all scuffed up and damaged and ripped up in the corners. And the reason I know that this is true is because I saw an 8-year-old hustle Roy so hard.
Is it true?
Yeah, I couldn't say no. He brought his cards to open his binder. Some of them were doing trade-up challenges. Some of them were just trying to, get into a bigger card. So, I just imagine my son going around and how I'd want to be treated, or how I'd want him to be treated. And I treated, these kids the same, or at least I tried to. So
that's nice of you. So, any local guys, local kids in Toronto, find Roy's booth. You can make a really good deal with them.
I mean, Roy is such a nice guy, right? He's such a good guy. So I just saw it happen, and then later on, we're looking at the cards, and he's like, "Yo, man, these are so busted."
I just ended up giving them away at the end of the show.
Probably to the same kid.
I can only do that for so many kids. If there's like 50 kids coming, I don't know if I have enough cards.
Well, I mean, going back to the original quote, like I do think it's easier. I mean, that you need, like you're saying, Roy, you need some, definitely need a good set to begin with. But relative to sports cards, right? Like I think it is easier to get going with selling Pokemon cards, because I've seen a bunch of places where they just have a bunch of binders, and my kid loves just looking through the binders and picking out, whereas sports card, you have a binder of base cards. No one's going to buy them unless that person's your favorite player. You know what I mean? And most of them, you don't even know who they are, right? So at least Pokemon, the characters themselves are more easily recognizable. You know who the Pikachus are, and, I'm sure every kid has their favorite Pokemon that they're looking for.
Yeah, and I think with sports, it's so hard because let's say you're a sports card dealer, you're dealing baseball, basketball, hockey, like there's all these different sports, but in Pokemon, it's just Pokemon. So you hit definitely a wider demographic in terms of what you can buy or what you can offer. So it just makes it a lot more easy. And like with the artwork these days, it's just so eye appealing, and everyone has their everyone enjoys most Pokemon, but they also have their own niche Pokemon as well. Yeah. So they look for these obscure cards or these ones that look funny, or So there's just so much more to offer than sports. Agreed.
And this next quote is a perfect segue to that, because the quote is, "Pokemon characters don't have bad years. They don't get hurt or test positive for steroids or have off-field scandals, but they don't have good years either. So the upside seems limited too." What do you guys think of that quote?
Well, they don't have good years. I don't know. I feel like when a set first comes out, those are the good years, right? Because everyone's chasing, either trying to finish their set or just chasing the chase card. So those would be the good years, because when a set first comes out, prices are high, and then a few months later, typically they drop.
I can see that.
Yeah, in a general sense, I definitely agree. Like Pokemon cards, the Umbreon from the vintage Umbreon cards are only going to go up, right, over time.
Yes.
There's nothing. Yeah. So
for me, it's the downside that I definitely agree with that, and like we joked about it in previous podcasts, where you don't have to worry about them having an ACL injury and then their pricing just drops or plummets, right? But it's the upside, which was like kind of I don't know, made me think, right? Because beyond like the new releases, I mean, you could say the same thing with sports cards, right? Some of these hot rookies that come out of these new sets, the pricing is going to be much higher, and then it's going to settle down. But what I don't get with Pokemon still is, it's almost random that a character will just go through some explosive phase in terms of like, everyone all of a sudden wants a Snorlax. I don't, you know what I mean? It's just like, so I guess you can't really figure that out as easily as obviously a player going through a hot streak in baseball or whatever sport.
Yeah, so that's why I think these days people are looking for something a little bit more rare, a little bit less modern. It's still like somewhat modern, like maybe like 2015, 2016. Just going a few years back where the print runs are done. The pop is generally low, like 1,000, 2,000.
Yeah.
I know in the sports world that's very high, but in Pokemon, you could definitely find 2,000 people that want that card, right? So it makes it more harder to get, or more quote unquote rare. So I think that's what people are doing these days in terms of what's making things go up. But yeah, again, like there's nothing that will really say, hey, this price should go up, unless other than like content creators, whether they're pumping the card up or they just really find it an amazing card and then they just share it, and then people are like, oh, that is a cool card, and everyone wants to kind of buy that. So
yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't know if it's going to work for every character. Like, I know Will's favorite, Butterfree. I don't think that's going to have its, that's going to be popular anytime soon. But you never know. Right? Okay. I don't know if you want to say anything, Will, before we go to the last quote.
I'm just waiting for a really nice Butterfree card to finally get released.
All right, last quote. The shared space of card shows increases opportunities for crossover between the TCG and sports markets, especially when one of the markets is white hot like Pokemon is right now. And this is a quote. I'm finding buyers want to get out of Pokemon and get into sports, Horvath said, the owner of Coast Cards. Effectively, that means trading Charizard for Otani or Pikachu for Mantle. I mean, I personally haven't seen that yet, this crossover, but I don't know. Maybe you guys have. Yes or no?
Well, if you're talking about the Skeens card I traded, yeah, but
right.
That was a mistake. I haven't seen this yet, but I could see where this quote is coming from. Maybe they're saying, okay, Pokemon is really hot. They've made their money. They don't love Pokemon, but they realize there's a hot market. They realize their profits, and now they're going back into something they enjoy.
Right.
But yeah, other than that, I haven't really seen it myself in terms of people trading their Pokemon for sports.
It's kind of similar to what you were saying earlier, right, Will? That one football card guy, he's like no emotion.
Yeah.
Maybe he's selling it and then maybe he's taking that money to buy something he really loves. I don't know.
Yeah. But I mean, at the same time, like you will see some of that because that's that trade or that sale that I made for the Glaceon. Sorry, who was it? Sylveon. The guy ended up trading a bunch of like Pokemon cards to Roy, and then while he was showing those cards to Roy, I was like, hey, what else you got? I'm interested in sports. And so he's like, I just got these random cards. I got some baseball cards. I'm like, I'll look at baseball cards because baseball cards are my first love. So I ended up getting this James Outman Radiant Parallel rookie card. And I think it was like, I thought it was $40 value. It ended up being like $10 to $15. But he just threw that in because he's like, I don't know anything about this card. My buddy just gave it to me, or he just got it somehow. So he's like, yeah, you can have that. And so there's that opportunity for, people to really go after what they're really interested in. I know in my scenario, it's kind of the reverse, right? Where a guy was going into Pokemon away from like random baseball cards and whatever. But you'll probably see the opposite happen too. Which is, I think, the point of that, the article, one of the points that they're trying to make, right? Like, it's just good to have all of this diversity because then you can really jump back and forth and, yeah. Yeah.
No, for sure. I'm going to link that article to our show notes below so you guys can read it. I think it's behind a paywall, so you might have to be a subscriber of the Athletic website. But it was a pretty interesting read, and I agree with the overall sentiment of that article, that diversity is good. Pokemon's growing and it's filling up the tables that, some sports card promoters and sports card shows couldn't fill until recently, right? So even with this last point, I think as TCG grows, it's good for sports card dealers at the end of the day because you got more traffic. And there are always even like, at least Will and I, you got people like us that collect both now. Pokemon and sports cards. So it's a good mix, and I'm sure you'll see more people like that at future shows. So yeah, great read. I'll link it in our show notes below. Okay, let's go on to our next segment, and it's called Just Hate. So the last time you guys were on, we tried a new segment called Don't Hate, and that was when we thought of hobby-related items or cards where we thought the hate went too far, right? It just went too far in the hobby. And if you guys remember, I said, just my personal don't hate was on Fernando Tatis Jr. Okay, and since that episode aired with the three of us on April 1st, he's hit 8 homers. He's batting .328 with 8 stolen bases. And I just checked on Card Ladder. His first Bowman Chrome autograph base card, BGS 9.5, was selling around $400 at that point. Like, I thought, come on, guys, don't hate. This is so low. The last sale a week ago, it's at $700. So there you go. You should have listened to me. You're welcome, guys. Anyone that listened to my advice. But anyway, this segment is the exact opposite. All right. So we're going to think of something in the hobby that we should, quote, just hate. And, there's nothing redeemable about this. And listen, of course, this is all tongue in cheek, so it's all in good fun, okay? I don't want anyone to really get pissed off at us with whatever we're going to share. I asked you guys to think of one thing, and then we'll just see if we agree with you. So to kick things off, I'll start because I thought of the segment, and I hope you guys didn't think of this, but mine is just hate jumbo patch one color napkin cards.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Come on. Like the normal relic size patch, the cloth, the tablecloth, the napkin, fine. That sucks too. But a jumbo patch, that's like a slap in the face. You know what I mean? So you got to just hate that. That's where I'm coming from.
Yeah. And you should just hate its cousin, the bat relic.
Whoa.
Bat relic is even worse. We're not talking about like a knob, right? We're not talking about like the one-of-one knob on the card.
Yeah.
We're talking about this sliver of what looks
wood.
to be wood, and there's no color. That's the worst. The bat relic
That's a good
is
one
the
too.
worst. Yeah.
How about if it's like you see a piece of that label? Is that okay? Is that, you know what I mean? You see Louisville on the
Yeah, I don't
one
think,
of the letters.
I don't think you're getting that out of the base relic patch card. You're definitely not getting that. But if
Fair
I
enough.
did see that, I'd be like, okay, that's cool. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you should definitely hate both.
Just hate.
Yeah.
All right. Who wants to go next?
So mine was actually relic cards, about relic cards as well.
Okay.
Because some of them say like player worn,
Mm.
where they just kind of touch it or they just wear it
Yeah.
on their off day. But if they're gonna do that, like, might as well just put some logo or some color in it. Even if they're, even if it's like, who's a white jersey, like Athletics.
Mm-hmm.
Let's put a little bit of green in every patch. How much do these jerseys cost for Fanatics?
Yeah.
The manufacturing cost is literally probably $10, right? So just cut up some, some green. Don't have a napkin patch. Right?
Yeah.
I like that. Player worn. I like that too.
I think
it should.
Oh,
yeah.
sorry. Go.
No, I was just gonna say they should also be game worn, very specific. I think Fanatics is kind of trending towards that. But yeah, let's get rid of just a player worn. Nothing's not specific to any game. Yeah, we don't want that. I'm aligned with you.
Yeah. I think Fanatics has done a better job. If I can't remember, I'm pretty sure that's the case where they're now like almost everything is game worn, right?
Yeah.
I feel like they made that announcement, especially for baseball. So I mean, it's good on Fanatics to do that. They should continue doing that. If it's just player worn, like that's just awful. Yeah, it's got to be a game used, and it can never be a napkin. Like the napkin is the worst. I hate it. Those are good just hates, guys.
Yes. You got one, Will?
I have a million. I mean, it's like the usual, just hate grading companies. Just hate PSA 8s that I keep getting. But I want it to be a little bit more, I keep beating the same drum, so I want it to stay away from that. One thing that I just hate is I really like collecting cool inserts. So like the usual ones, like kabooms, color blasts, national landmarks, downtowns, those kinds of ones. And so I have them saved in my eBay save searches. And every hour or so you'll get new hits, and then so you'll log in and you'll click on it. And the thing that I just hate is these custom art cards that are made to look like kabooms or color blasts. And it's this loser who's just trying to sell his photocopied, like, bootleg version of a kaboom. And it just keeps reposting it on eBay. So it keeps repopulating my save searches. And there's no way I can get rid of it. It just keeps showing up every week when the auction doesn't sell. And so I think that's what we should. Do you guys not know what I'm talking about? Have you not seen them?
Just custom cards, you're saying.
Yeah, but it's like custom. It's not just a custom card. Custom cards are fine. Like I think some custom cards are really, really beautiful and they have their place. But it's these losers who try to make it look like a kaboom. And they call it a kaboom. So that it shows up in my save search as a kaboom. But then it's like kaboom, custom art, like that. So
it's like,
here's a tip. If you put minus sign and put custom beside it without a space, it will remove those from your search.
in eBay?
Yeah.
Oh my God. I'm
eBay,
such a noob.
Google.
I mean, as long as they put custom on the
Yeah.
their search, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know we could do that on eBay.
Yeah.
I'm learning so much. You know what I just learned this past show, Clark? I didn't know on Card Ladder that you could do the same minus whatever.
Yeah, right.
I always thought that was just like a 130 point thing. And so I never
No, it's
even
like a
thought to
Google
try
thing.
it on Card Ladder until I saw Roy with his busted Bell internet trying to search on Card Ladder. And he's putting all these minuses. And I'm about to tell him, like, no, you idiot, that doesn't work. And then it actually worked. And I was like, oh my God, I've been using Card Ladder for 3 years. And I never even thought about it. But yeah.
Yeah, dude, that's a noob move.
I
Yeah.
know.
But then again, Roy found out that you could look at sales comps on Card Ladder too, and not just the ladder index.
Well, it's because when you guys are always raving about Card Ladder, and then I see the Card Ladder data. That's like the most important thing about Card Ladder, or I thought so. But there's like no cards that have an actual ladder. Like it's very, very small amount of cards, especially Pokemon. There's like literally 0 cards that have an actual card ladder data.
Yeah. Right.
So that's what I was looking for, just to see the trends. And then, just recently, just at Expo is when I started using Card Ladder as like a comping tool.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, for sure, the ladder index is very useful, and I love looking at the charts. But you could do sales comp, and then there's a button that says view like all same grades, and then that filters it even down more. So. You know what? I'll do a tutorial for you guys later. All right, just how to maximize.
I just wanted to see a graph if it's going up or down. Instead of me looking at all the numbers and like thinking, okay, it is gradually going up. Just give me a high level, give me a high level graph.
Yeah, just hate Card Ladder for not making it more intuitive for us. But I mean, I'm just joking. I actually truly love and appreciate Card Ladder.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like that. I think we thought of some good ones. Any last ones before we move on to our last segment?
I had a point that I wanted to bring up. Like, what do you guys think about botting?
Botting.
I know it's a gray, well, not a gray area. It's pretty looked down upon.
Yes.
I don't bot myself. Full disclaimer, but it's like everyone is on an even playing field, and it's the ones that take the time to either figure out how bots work or create their own bot.
Mm-hmm.
They're giving themselves an advantage, right? I think the problem with botting is the abuse of botting, abuse of how much inventory they're purchasing.
Yeah.
But if the people who set themselves up to bot only purchase 1 or 2 items, I don't think it would be a huge problem, right? At least with the amount of product going to everyone. But it's how do you guys feel about botting in general? Like, do you think it's unethical, or do you think it's like the people who are putting their time in on their, when they have free time to figure these things out and put themselves in an advantage? Do you think that's good, like right on them? Because everyone could do it. Like I could put in hours to figure it out and then figure it out and then be able to purchase, without, trying to do it myself. Or do you think it's kind of looked down upon, or I don't know. How do you guys feel?
That's easy. Just hate. Just hate botting. Yeah. Come on. I'm not going to spend hours on trying to figure out how a bot works. Like, let's, really level the playing field. The fastest click, okay? That's how we should do it.
I agree. Just hate botting, but you should just hate or not just hate. You should also hate, or hate more, the vendors and the companies, because I think the onus is on them, right? If they don't do something to limit botting, then they're saying, hey, we don't really care about the collectors. All we care about is making our sales. So I don't care if you buy $12,000, like if you buy all the stock, right? That's not cool. It's like, when we see all these Costco Pokemon fights, like I remember when it's first started surfacing, Roy would send me these Instagram videos. We'd be sending them back and forth. And I'm just like, Costco's so stupid. Just put like a three box limit. And right. I remember early on, Roy was like, nah, they don't care. They just want to get rid of all the boxes. So they'll just sell it to whoever. And I'm like, it's a bad look when you have these grown men and women just fighting over each other. And if I'm going there with my kids and I'm buying groceries like tomatoes and I have to like walk by these losers fighting, like I don't feel good about it. And then Costco learned, right? Like some of them, they already have it pre-packaged and they've limited how many you can get. We're trying to buy stuff from Pokemon Center, and if you get in, you're limited. You can buy 1, maybe 2 boxes. And so I think something like that is really nice. It's a good sign for these companies to be trying to fight against botting. But botting's always going to exist. So, I mean, you can hate it all you want, but if you're buying sneakers, if you're buying concert tickets, if you're buying, anything that's limited print run, there's always going to be bots that are figuring out how to cheat the system. Unfortunately,
true. I hope the anti-bot technology just ramps up. That's our only hope for those who hate botting. All right, I feel like just hate was much easier than don't hate. There's a lot of more things to hate in the hobby.
Well, that's how all these other podcasts, they get big. Or these Instagram accounts, right? Like
right.
All they do is doom and gloom and share like all the dirty stuff that happens in the hobby. And it's like, man, like
that's true.
You need some happiness in your life. I don't know if I like this just hate.
Okay, that's we don't have to do it every time. There's a lot more, and let's just cut off here. I have a few more, but let's just cut it off here for our well-being. All right, we'll end off the show with our regular weekly segment we call Pick One. All right, and this is when we put up 2 cards and then we debate which one we would rather invest in. So, Will, do you want to start things off for us?
Yeah, sure. So, obviously Pokemon is very much in our hearts and minds these days for the 3 of us. So I picked the Pikachu, and Roy, you have to correct me if I'm wrong. I believe it's the Pikachu Van Gogh, correct? But like the title of it says like Pikachu with a gray felt hat or something like that.
That's the official.
Yeah, but it's basically the Van Gogh Pikachu PSA 10. It's been selling for around $700 US, $1,000 Canadian, versus the Mike Trout 2011, right?
Yep.
Topps Update base PSA 10. Which is also selling for around $700 US, 1,000 Canadian. The Pikachu is on a huge spike. The Trout is kind of, oh man, this is like a really good pun. It's kind of floundering. But it's kind of like hovering around that $1,000 Canadian mark. But the big differentiator, the Pikachu has a pop count of 38,000 PSA 10s. And the Mike Trout has a pop count of 6,700. So which one would you pick?
I'll go first. You guys know, everyone that listens to this podcast knows I have the first Bowman refractor. I upgraded my Mike Trout. I'm so annoyed with Mike Trout now. I'm so freaking annoyed. The guy can't stay freaking healthy. He's on the IL again. Like it is. Yeah, he's something with his knee now because he was running really fast and then he just stepped hard, and it's just so. You know what? I'm just so annoyed with Mike Trout. Pikachu Van Gogh.
Oh wow.
Okay. I don't care. 40,000 pop count, whatever. And I have one, so that at some point I'm sure it's gonna drop in value. And I know, Roy, you sold your last one. Maybe I should do the same too. But just a very biased decision right now. If you asked me at the start of the season, I might have said Mike Trout. But right now I'm just annoyed with Trout and his health. So Pikachu Van Gogh it is.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm gonna go the same. I feel like Mike Trout's on a downward trend continually, and again, you just said he got injured again, so his years are. I don't know. I don't know if he's gonna become that goat that Hyung always raving about. And the thing about the Pikachu Van Gogh card is it's an English exclusive, right? So people from other regions, they also want this card because it's an English exclusive, and it's a Van Gogh tribute. So I think even with the high pop count, it's still going to be popular. It maybe dip a little bit, but at the same time, it could go up. So yeah, these special art exclusives, they do pretty well, like the Munch Pikachu. I know the pop count's much lower on that, but at the same time, it's an iconic card, and I think it'll just continually do well. Where Mike Trout, year after year over the past 3-4 years, it's been on a downward trend. So I'd stay away from Mike Trout and go with my boy Pikachu.
What made me find this Pikachu Van Gogh was I went on Cardliner and I just looked at what cards have the most pop. And it's crazy because it's like Ken Griffey Jr. PSA 9 card and a different PSA 8 Ken Griffey card. Like Ken Griffey's like 4 of the top 5. And Pikachu's the third one. And it's crazy because I was like trying to scan. I was like, okay, I got to find like something to comp against Pikachu. And so what's the next PSA 10 PSA 10 card that I see in it? It's Wemby's base card. And it's a pop of 25,000. And that card is worth like $80. And it's just like, yeah, that makes sense because it's a pop of 25,000. Like,
right.
It should be worth $80 or $100. So what boggles my mind is how this Pikachu can be $1,000.
You know what? At the same time, if I can interject, who has more fans, Wemby or Pikachu?
But there's
I think
so
it's
many
Pikachu, hands down.
But would you say that, Roy? Would you say that this is the iconic Pikachu card?
I wouldn't say it's like the most iconic, but when you look at it, it's like art, right?
Yeah.
So again, yeah, like to Clark's point, how many collectors of Pikachu are there? There's more than 40,000 in the world, right? And whether they want a PSA 9 or PSA 10, it's like you're holding something that's gonna go down as one of like the nicest looking cards for Pikachu, something that's exclusive in English, and a PSA 10. So.
Yeah. I mean, that reminds me of something that John Kim, one of my favorites, he told me early on when I was collecting. He was like, hey, man, like, how many people go to a baseball game? 30,000? And how many games are there? 162? You're not telling me there's at least 40,000 people who want a Lewis Robert PSA 10 card? Like, it's going to hold its value. And I'm like, yeah, John, you make a lot of sense. Like, of course there's going to be enough people to hold Lewis Robert's base card value up. For that very reason, because I was burned on Lewis Robert. And because I just haven't fully transitioned to my Pokemon TCG love yet, I'm going to pick Mike Trout just because I can't stand behind 40,000, like a pop of 40,000. It's too much. It doesn't make sense to me. So I picked
Hobby Logic.
Hobby Logic.
We call it Hobby Logic. Yeah. All right. This is a good one. Roy, you want to go next?
Yeah. So we'll go with the most iconic card, the 1999 first edition base set Charizard in a PSA 10. So that sold on May 3rd, so a couple days ago, for $213,500 US dollars. It's a pop of 125, so not 40,000, but 125. And we're going to put that head to head against the 1986 Fleer Michael Jordan rookie PSA 10. The last one sold a couple weeks ago for $348,000, but that one had the gold NBA or the gold diamond NBA rating sticker. Yeah. But the one prior to that was on March 21st for $204,000 US. So a difference of about 10,000, and that's a pop 332. So would you rather have the GOAT of Pokemon or the GOAT of basketball?
Well, you go.
Yeah, I'm flipping from the first one. I'm 100% going Charizard because that is like the iconic Pokemon card. It's low pop. It's always gonna be in demand. This is the grail of all grails. So yeah, I'm going Charizard.
This is a good one because the Michael Jordan 1986 Flair, the pop count's not going to go any higher.
No,
It's kind of there's control on that pop count by this point, right? So and it's so iconic. And I know the Charizard as well, but I'll go MJ.
ooh,
It's so iconic. And the thing with Charizard, I would love to have that card too, by the way, but there's like the shadowless, there's different variations of it. You know what I mean?
But this is first edition, and it's shadowless, because all first edition is shadowless, so...
I know, but I mean, only a Pokemon nerd will know that, you know? And I mean, MJ, it's just, oh man. Yeah, so, and you know, like, I know we've had pick ones with MJ, Fleer, and I always choose the other one, because I'm like, it's at some point it's going to just crash, you know? And it doesn't make sense in terms of the pop count with other more rare Michael Jordan cards, but I'm just beginning to think Michael Jordan is kind of like this 1986 Fleer PSA 10. It's kind of in the same tier as even like the 1989 Ken Griffey Jr. PSA 10s. Those prices are just stable now at this point. You know, the pop count's going to be similar, and despite the pop count in a lot of these cases, it's just so iconic. Therefore, there will always be a baseline on that demand. So I'm going with MJ in this case.
Yeah, for me, I know I hate to say it, but I think I might go with MJ as well.
What happened?
This is
I know the pop is double, and like that first, like you were saying, the pop's going to stay the same, but I feel like that it's going to be the same with the Charizard as well. But the reason is, I think there's more high spenders in the Michael Jordan market or the sports card market or sports memorabilia market
right.
than there are Pokemon. But at the same time, Michael Jordan is getting older, right? So if you just hold it for a certain amount of time,
yeah,
you know, that card will just, I think, multiply. But like, you know, that's not the only reason. It's just, I think there's more spenders, and it's a little bit, you could find a buyer for that card probably a little bit easier than the Charizard to get what the number that you want in terms of price.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I don't know. I hate to say it because I don't like collecting sports cards, but I think it makes sense. I think MJ is the right choice.
Wow, what a twist.
I'm so confused.
It was a good one. And
it feels like if Pikachu was the main guy.
I think it's because Roy loves Pikachu.
Yeah, I'm a Pikachu collector. So if that was like a PSA 9 of the Illustrator, it might be a little bit different.
Wow.
But
so you know how we always joke that John's like the biggest LeBron hater on the pod, and he just will never choose LeBron? I think Roy's just the biggest Charizard hater. He'll never choose Charizard.
Yeah, I don't have a single Charizard card.
You just spent like 5 minutes arguing against my pick one. And then as soon as it came to his, he's like, yeah, Jordan. Charizard sucks.
Well, you're comparing Trout. Trout is not MJ.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's another good one. All right, we'll end off with my pick one. $2,500. Both these cards have sold for $2,500 in the last week or two. The 2025 Umbreon EX from the SIR, Special Illustration Rare, right? The one that, I don't know if you saw the IG reel, the one musician or DJ ripped $30,000 worth of boxes just to finally find one that's worth $2,500 in a PSA 10. That Umbreon versus, this is just for Roy, Paul Skeens. Gold Shimmer, first Bowman Chrome rookie auto, BGS 9.5, auto 10. It is a Gold Shimmer, refractor number to 50. Are you coming back into sports? What are you guys doing?
Yeah, I'll go first. yeah, like I love the art of the Umbreon. It's pretty new set. But that's kind of, I feel like that's on a downward trend. But and Skeen, isn't he playing sick right now?
Yeah, still.
I see some of his highlights. I'm like, those pitches are nasty. So I think short term, I actually go Skeen.
Yes. He's back in on Skeen.
What is happening? What is happening?
I don't know. I like just watching his highlights. I'm just like, this guy is nasty.
He is.
I don't know if he's gonna get it. I don't think he's gonna be very injury prone, at least now.
Mm-hmm.
So for the short term, as long as he's pitching like this, I think he could do a lot better because that Umbreon is just gonna get higher and higher pop. And I think if the Pokemon market goes down, this is probably one of the first cards that go down in price as well, just because it's so modern, it's so high pop. So I think longevity wise, this Umbreon card won't do as well as the Skeens. So I think Skeens is the play. If it's the PC, Pokemon, because I just don't want to deal with selling sports cards. But I think the Skeens is the right play.
Wow.
He's nasty. I see those pitches. I'm just like, holy, the movement
defies gravity. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're weighing the risk of the Pokemon market crashing against the risk of Paul Skeens' elbow exploding.
Yes.
Yeah, like Roy's saying, like they did this like Sports Center video on Skeens' pitch setups, and he threw like a fastball that's like 2 feet off the plate. And he throws the next pitch in the same arm slot, same angle, same everything, except it's a curveball, and it's like a frisbee. It's like a boomerang, like that much curve, and it just like dots the corner, and the batter's just like completely confused because he's expecting. It looked exactly the same as the fastball when it was coming out of his hand. Yeah, that guy is nasty, and. I think for Skeens, he just has to get out of Pittsburgh because
they're a bad team.
Like I love Pittsburgh. Like I think we talked about this last time. Like I'm a big Pittsburgh fan. I'm a Steelers fan. If it wasn't the Leafs, I really enjoy watching the Penguins growing up. So I love Pittsburgh, but that Pirates franchise is not going to do anything for a long time. So. The second Skeens goes to the Yankees, which will break my heart because we are in the AL East and the Jays will have to face him all the time. Like, if he jumps to a big market, that Skeens is just going to keep going up. So, I'm with you. I pick Skeens.
Okay. I mean, it's a pitcher. You guys forget that he's a pitcher, and you know how we feel about pitchers, right? And I was looking at the pop count for the Umbreon is 1283 right now for the PSA 10.
Okay, it's not that
The
high.
gem rate is 35%. So there's 2,000 PSA 9s. So it's not as easy to get PSA 10. And after I see that IG reel, that $35,000 going through, and I'm like, why did I open my second ETB prismatic, thinking that I was going to hit this card? The guy, and of course I didn't get anything good. So it's a hard hit. It's really it's a big chase card that's hard to hit. But that being said, I can't go against Paul Skeens. It's a gold shimmer too. It's a shimmer, yeah, sure, but it's gold. The pits require it. You know how I feel about color match cards or semi-color match cards. I feel like if it was a blue or a different color than gold, I would give it a second thought for the Umbreon. I would give it a second thought, but yeah, there's too many things going for the Paul Skeens. All right, another great show, guys. As always, appreciate you guys coming on. I like this. We're doing it more regularly. So we'll definitely have you guys on soon. And we appreciate all our listeners and subscribers, of course. And we'll have a brand new show for you on Tuesday. Talk to you then. Bye. Hey, thanks for listening to Cards to the Moon. We'd really appreciate you subscribing to our podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts. And you can also connect with each of us on Instagram at 5cardguys, or you can follow Hyung at Integrity Sports Cards, or John at TradeU at Recess. You can also check us out at 5cardguys.com. Thanks again, and hope to connect soon.